I printed them. so
Great.
okay.
You're all set, right? Everybody's good?
Good.
Do you need copies?
Grab my pen.
Okay.
Swing it around.
Yep. Thank you all for coming. So I think first of all, we'll review the minutes from last time, make sure they're okay. That's really all we're doing, just making sure they're okay. If anybody has any changes we'd like, and then I'd like to move on to interview Janice. But first, why don't we do a round table of introductions for everybody's benefit. So I'm Jen Zolman.
I'm Janice Crawford.
Joyce Allen.
Dick Bennett.
Jen Purble, Sarah Kimball.
Ginger Perkins, Marilyn Rhodes, Ida Carrier, Susan Ross Terra,
Bill Terry.
Linda Terry.
Back to me. Anybody coming? No. All right, does anybody have any changes, additions to the minutes from last time?
Yeah, my name was mentioned in the minutes, but it's not listed as.
Not on the list of attendees?
Yeah, there's that now.
Sorry. I caught one other absentee before we sent it out, so I missed you, sorry. Okay, so we agreed last time that we were going to invite Janice here to discuss being a facilitator for the group. And we wanted to have an interview session per se, so this is the time. So Janice can tell us about her background for those of you that don't know Janice. And then what we're looking for from a facilitator, in my eyes, is somebody to help facilitate the meeting, not necessarily chair the meeting, but facilitate the meeting, keep us on track, be able to help us with the logistics behind the scenes, making sure everybody gets a copy of the minutes, and who does the minutes would be great. As we get into more action items, like helping pass out the survey, collating the survey, working with us behind the scenes to do those things, is really something that we need moving forward. And then we can change and morph the role as we see fit based on how the group goes and what our needs are. But so Janice, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm sure a lot of you know that I've been the executive director of the Mount Washington Valley Chamber for the last 25 years. And Friday is my official last day, but it's pretty much done. And so obviously working in that realm, I facilitated a board meeting every month, a new board meeting every month, 5 strategic plans that we've been through, taken the minutes, made sure the board was well aware of what was going on, and tried to help the president manage the meeting, because it's so easy to get off on tangents. And it's good to have someone to bring it back so you're not here all night. Many of you may have had those experiences of meetings that go on and on and on. I also have been a selectman for 1 term in Freiburg, so I'm somewhat familiar with the way the towns work and the facilities committee or a conservation committee or what have you. I'm aware, because I taught leadership for 12 years, I'm aware of the Municipal Association in New Hampshire, which is a great resource. The New Hampshire Nonprofit Association, for any questions that you might have about that would have something to do with. So I think anything that might come up in the meeting, I would be able to follow through on and do the digging to get you an answer, or certainly your town administrator could do that as well. But I'm just seeing that whatever would make it easier for you and not add more burden to you, that you would walk out of the meeting knowing that I've been given this, and this to do, and then I would either follow the protocol of sending it to the chair, which I believe is Barbara.
And myself.
And yourself, so I could send that information to them, and then they could send it out to you, or if they decide, just copy everyone so it saves me a problem. I would primarily be here just to make it easy for everybody and to listen, not to give input, except to perhaps clarify something that you've asked me to go and research, and you have a question about it. But otherwise, my whole role is to listen for clarity, to make sure that we are hearing everybody's point until that person feels comfortable that that point has been clearly heard, and then to facilitate the meeting just in terms of bringing you back to, let's go back to this point, because we were talking about this before we go on to this point. Oftentimes the chair will do that, but sometimes when someone's been given the task of just listening, they can hear where you're starting to go off and bring you back. So I think that if you're looking for a facilitator, it's something that I could do to help you out and give me something to do while I wonder what I'm going to do. Dan, do you have any questions?
Janice, would you be expecting that the co-chairs of the committee would actually set the agenda?
Oh, yes. Well, and actually it would be set by you as individuals as well. I mean, the process would be, as in anything, to make sure you have informed the chair if you have something you want to on the agenda. If someone happened to reach out to me just because that's the easiest email you found, I would go through them for creating that agenda. I am only here to facilitate the business of what you're trying to accomplish.
Makes sense? Questions? You want to talk? We can ask her to leave and we can talk about it. This is what happens.
I would say outside of, attending the meetings, I mean, how much time do you think would go into facilitating the group?
Well, how often are you going to meet?
Currently, we're meeting once a month.
Once a month?
And then we
And-
might, as we progress, we're planning on doing a town-wide survey. That information coming back in might require, more time, I would hope, from a facilitator to help with that. And it might be like just Barbara and I and you,
Right.
just getting it all together for the rest of the group, that type of thing. So it could fluctuate, is what
Okay.
I'm saying.
Okay, and so just to,
Yeah.
and your report is due when?
I would like to say it's due by February, but it's really due at the town meeting of March.
Okay. All right, so there you could, and how long do your meetings usually run?
We hope an hour, but it's been like an hour and a half.
Okay. All right, so just to give it a decent idea, let's say 2 hours. Probably won't, but 2 hours for 6 or 8 meetings, so,
Yeah, and maybe more.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
So that would
It might
be,
be more
Yeah.
appropriate for us to think about how much time we need. as
exactly,
well,
and
so-
how you, I mean, I offered to, I could take the minutes or
Mhm.
not. It's
Okay.
just how much each of you as an individual, if you get
Yeah.
assigned something and would
Take on
prefer,
those tools, yeah.
prefer not to have it added to your list of things to do. And then any research that you might ask for, just
Mhm.
through the municipal association or other towns. You might want to find out what other towns have done in the past. So why don't we, just to give you an idea for a budget, when you're thinking maybe, let's start with 25 hours.
Okay.
With the survey, you may get to a place where you're not getting the responses you want,
Mhm.
and we may want to do a phone tree.
Mhm.
It may be, somebody's going to work that up and then give those to you. I think it would be much better for you to do the calling than me, although I would have no problem doing that just because it stays in the town.
Sure.
So I think, what are you going to use to get the survey out, the distribution of the survey, and then the collating of the survey. Most of the software programs will collate
Mhm.
a survey for you, so there won't be 3,000 forms that.
yeah, we have a professional doing
Yeah.
that for us right
So
now.
you'll be all set there.
Okay.
So we could start it that way.
Okay,
That sounds fair.
thank you.
I do have a couple of things that I'm going to be out of town, so it might require changing a meeting if you feel that I need to be there. I'm going to be in Germany August 17th through the 27th, and then I'm going to be in Florida October 20th through November 5th.
That seems fair.
There we go.
So any other questions?
And I'm happy to leave, certainly you want to talk about it, I don't need to.
Did anybody leave their windows open? Because it's pouring.
No, it's pouring.
Is it?
Yes.
It's
I may have left mine open, but.
No.
All right.
Coming straight down.
Yeah, no, straight down. And the sun's up too, so it's
Rainbow.
great. Rainbow.
Was it your hope that they would make a decision and then I would stay for this meeting? So
Yes.
I could hear?
Yes, because
Okay.
we're on limited time.
All right, would
you
you
know,
like
for our
me to
meetings.
step out?
If you don't
I'm
mind,
happy to.
that would be lovely.
No
You
problem.
want to check the J-Town card, see if it's just peek out the window?
Well, my car's out there, so just check my messages.
Just remember, we are being guilty. She's outside. I'm gonna close that one. So any questions? Any discussion? Yep.
How much was our budget?
We have 25,000, and she would charge it 100 an hour. So,
And if the North Country Council was available, would there be a charge from them?
I don't know. Emily was gonna find that information out for us, but I'm sure there would be some type of consultation. But we at a group at the last meeting had discussed that they would probably come to like a listening post, if not one or two. So we wouldn't necessarily be looking at them to do what we're looking for towns to do. Yeah.
Just that, even looking at the survey, I'm still kind of wondering is what we're reaching out for.
Yeah, and we can review that next.
I'm kind of confused, and if we're hiring someone to take minutes,
Mhm.
one of us could take minutes.
Well, she's more than taking minutes.
Yeah, I know, she's going to be
Right.
trying to keep us on track.
Keep us on track. And then like there was a lot of logistics that took me time to get together today
Yeah.
that she could have done, because, I.
Yeah. Oh, no, I
I
understand.
And then as we move, I'm thinking there's gonna be more logistics that are gonna need, like coordinating with North Country Council to make sure that they show up, and how do we get this, or working with David on the surveys, that types of things, and like she recommended the phone tree, so, I just think we could use her just for an hour a month, or we could have the luxury of utilizing her for more, so I think she's pretty flexible moving into her new retiree role. So that's just moving ahead. I was like, it might be helpful to keep us on track. And to your point, like making sure that, again, we'll again review the mission of this group, which we did the last time and the time before, so to make sure that we're all still on the same page.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's something that she could help make sure we're honed in on. And being someone who's familiar with the community, but not necessarily familiar with us individually, it's not personal. She's just like, stay on task, you had a point, what's your, let's move along. So that type of thing is what I would be hoping for.
How familiar is she with what our mission is, as you say?
Pardon?
How familiar is she with what we're trying to do?
I gave her an overview of the time frame and kind of what we're looking for is the needs of the community. So, that's all we've really discussed is her being able to facilitate is really it. Because she's not going to direct anything. She's not going to drive anything. She's just supporting us. Right? That makes sense? Yeah.
I think she can do the job.
Yes, it's do we want her to? That's
Right.
the question.
Right.
We could spend as little as 600 and just have her at the meetings to take minutes, or we could spend more, or we could get someone else,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. Is it worthwhile to have her take minutes?
Jen did a great job, but it
Yes,
was a
you
lot
did,
of
but
time.
it distracts you from the meeting. I think
Yeah.
doing minutes.
And it took you a long time, those were
There was a
excellent
lot,
minutes.
there was a lot to work through
Right.
with the information that was covered last time. And I think not knowing everybody really very well, it took me a little while to figure out, thankfully, Sue was there to help me say who was who, as my notes were. But I think there's definitely value in having someone who can pull people back and who is in the meetings and who said, just can keep us on track. But So I think that it would be good. I do think it would be really good to get working on the North Country Council or another economic development tool that can help us provide information about other towns who have also done that. Or if you see that as a role that,
That wouldn't
she could
necessarily
play.
be a role of hers, I mean, she may have some experience with it,
Yeah,
just coincidentally,
right.
but that's not what I'm looking for her.
Correct, and I understand that. I think that we should definitely not put that off as another tool.
Yeah,
in
and
the
yes,
bucket.
we're hoping, and unfortunately Emily was chairing that part of it.
Yeah.
So I have to follow up with her again. But anyway, so any other questions you want? I'd like to vote, like to bring her in or not bring her in today. I think we certainly have more than enough people here at the committee to do that. We had discussed Tim Scott, but we felt somebody maybe who didn't know us all in the community might be better for us as a group. So that was what we discussed last time. That was in the minutes. So just in the essence of time, we're into July, almost August. We only have a few more months. Yes?
Is her $100 an hour fee, is that the standard rate for a facilitator?
Probably with someone with her expertise for minutes and doing those things. I mean, the school board person only takes minutes.
That's
And
more
they
like
make, like,
secretary.
Right, and they make, I think, like 50 or
Mhm.
something. I'm not even
50?
sure.
Mhm.
But that's just the minutes.
Mhm.
They're not facilitating anything, they're not keeping us on track, they're not doing any of that, and nor are they doing anything behind the scenes, in between meetings,
Mhm.
so.
So what will she do behind the scenes? I was a little confused on that.
Well, she can pass
Because
the,
it's not decided yet, really?
correct, so as we come up with things, I think she
Yeah.
can handle anything we throw at her.
That's what she said.
Right, so I had to work with David, the last time on the survey. We did some minutes before, she could have worked with Dick if Dick needed help with getting like other things together. He was nice enough to get together a list of, our properties and such like that. So there'll be things that come up that she can work with Julie on. Making sure we have a big easel would have been nice today. It's gone, so. Yeah, it's okay. So, like those types of things. So, and I'm sure working with North Country Council to make sure that we have a meeting room set up and listening posts and communicating out to the community at large, those types of
I have
things.
another question.
Yeah.
I don't know what North Country Council is.
I don't know them well, but they are another, I don't know, Dick, can you talk to that a little bit better?
Well, North Country Council we've used in the past as facilitators.
Yeah.
They helped us with, I can't remember the last, what was the last big thing they did?
The state is divided up into planning districts, and North Country Council is our planning district. If you go to other parts of the state, there are other planning districts, and they have various staff who do transportation, economic development, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
They have a GIS person on staff if you need to do any mapping.
They have a really great website, nccouncil.org, and talks about just helping communities maintain their uniqueness and helping to solve regional issues, with helping to set priorities and policies. So it's an economic development.
It sounds like it would be
Agency.
good to have someone from them talk to us when we get the ball rolling a little bit more.
Yeah, they're going to in September, October is when we
Yeah,
want to
that
have them
sounds
in.
like,
But we had discussed in the last couple meetings
Yes.
that they were, we didn't want them, and I'm not saying for myself, this is what the group had talked about, that we didn't want them because we were afraid they would be cookie cutter-ish for our community and didn't know our community as well as we know our community. So, and not as cost effective as having someone for just being a facilitator. So we were gonna use both. And this is again what we talked about, and it was in the minutes from last time, that we would have North Country Council come in and do like a listening post for the community at large. So we're not just having them for us, but for the whole community to kind of bounce ideas off of. that type of thing and use them as a, you know, a council per se, and a resource that way and spend our money that way with them.
Do they charge for their work?
Oh, yeah.
We're a member of North Country Council, so we get a
Yeah.
certain.
We have some privileges with them.
Yeah,
The nice thing, they have their finger on the pulse from the state. They're kind of the in-between for us of what's happening statewide and then what we can filter down and use in our community. So that's where they're good. That dividing line between, we're members, you know, we pay a membership fee with them, but where it becomes, well, they're also a business, so
Right.
they want to be paid for the time they put into us. So we'll have to be careful, but they'll be forthcoming about what they can offer us and then what we need to pay for.
I think their input would be very valuable too.
Oh, we're not saying we're not gonna use them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're
To
trying
look
to.
at all the different.
Absolutely. I guess the question really is about roles that we're talking about. And the North Country Council should be available to us as members to be able to give us some overviews and some insight relative to what other towns are doing and some of those kinds of things. I think that's very different from the kind of role that we're talking about for a
Which is-
facilitator, for somebody who's going to be
yeah,
here just to help us
the
with
meetings.
the, you know, just keep making sure that we stay on track a little bit and take notes so that we don't have any one individual having to, you know,
Take the responsibility for everything.
to take your particular
I
day. You're
understand
gonna do
that part,
that.
and then as other things rise, you know, we can decide whether or not we're capable of doing them ourselves or we can hand them.
Absolutely.
Is there a treasurer, you know, since we have the $25,000?
No, I mean, we could ask her to
Just, yeah,
help,
just
and if
track.
it's, Julie can help us with that.
Yeah, so we know
The town,
if we
yeah.
run out of money.
Yeah, I just have some reservations about whether the time is right to have a facilitator for our committee when we seem to really need some direction
Too soon?
as to what our, what
I think she
what
can
our
help with
purpose
us
is.
with the direction, is what I'm hoping. Like, ground out, like, making sure we're still, like, we went over the mission statement last time, a couple of times, we spent a considerable amount of time on it, but yet there still seems to be questions. So I'm hoping like a facilitator who's a third party necessarily can help keep us on track and say, you know, this is what it is.
Yeah, I think
You know what I mean?
if you were just a note taker, I would say to you, no, we probably shouldn't have
Yeah,
her
no,
here.
okay.
Hire a student to take
We-
notes.
Right.
But if we're going to use someone as a facilitator, exactly to your point, it's someone who will ask questions or will perhaps work with us to try to hone in on what it is we're trying to do here. I'm with you. I still have issues around what the heck it is we're doing and how we're going to do it and how the survey works and how the committee works as an organization to move us forward. I still don't feel like we've gotten traction here in the way I would like to see. And so, but it's still early days, so it's like, okay, we need to figure out what that is and then get moving on it. And if she's truly a good facilitator, she would be able to help us through that process.
And we can always fire her.
And
Well, I mean,
We
to that point, if we don't have like an agreed, we're going to go ahead and pay $5,000 to do, just be here. I mean, to that point, like, she can come to the meeting, she can facilitate, and if we do not think that it's going in the right direction, then we can say thank you to getting us to this point, and then find another solution. So it's at least a step in the right direction, but if truly she's going to be able to help us navigate the different perspectives, and I think
Where we
there's
want to
value.
go, basically, what we're really going to do.
Right.
So we're ready for someone like that, next meeting probably.
No, now.
Now, today.
Today.
Okay. So we have to vote. and
Because
see.
we're at a point where we shouldn't have questions about what we're doing.
Yeah,
We should all be on the same page,
yeah.
because we spent considerable time on it last month, going over what our mission and what our goal is. So we should be on that.
I think
That
it
should
was
be
2 meetings,
set.
Yeah.
Right, but still, like, if you miss the meetings, it doesn't mean that we go back to the starting point. It means you pick up where you came in the room, and you carry on. You know, because we have the minutes and what we agreed on, and that's how we do it. And that's how we do it with the school board. We don't go backwards. We keep going forward.
Right.
And if you miss a meeting, you can question, but the train's already left the station.
At the
We're
first,
going that way.
the
You know what I
first
mean?
meeting, the meeting that you missed was where we really decided, we were all throwing ideas out and we finally got to the point where we were saying, wait a minute, what are we doing? Are we doing a capital plan or are we doing something about the community? And still, I want to know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So maybe.
So I don't want to leave
Show
Janice
us the
in
part
the,
and then get to that.
right, I don't want to leave Janice in the parking lot anymore.
Okay,
So let's get that,
let's give it
That
a
one
try.
on.
Let's just give it a try.
so we can give it a try. We're only gonna pay her hourly. We're not gonna give her like a lump sum, you know, so we'll give her a try and hopefully she can, you know, get us on board. So it'll take her a little while to get on board with all of us and get to know us all. So, are we all in favor? Are those in favor of trying Janice?
Let's try it.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
Good.
All right, I'll go get it.
Thank you, Heather, you can keep on going.
Okay, great. So that was the first part. So on the next agenda. So I think we should just review before we get to the survey that was passed out to everybody before the meeting. And thank you so much for those people that did provide input back before the meeting. And Jen had a lot of stuff. So I've printed out other people's information, but I think before we pass out the surveys and we do all that stuff, we should try to clarify and make sure we're all on the same page as to what this committee is for. So, hey Janice, welcome aboard.
Thank you, everyone.
So you start now, by the way.
Okay.
All right. Hope you didn't have anywhere else to go.
No, I'm gonna sit so I can take notes. Easier.
So Janice, we're gonna be looking for your facilitatorship as well as minutes, but more like making sure we get our mission down. So that we
Yes.
all are on the same page
Yes.
moving forward before we go into the survey.
And you've started to work on that.
We did that last meeting and the meeting before, so we still have people with questions about what we're actually doing.
Okay.
And it is a little different than most committees at this point, so I'll review and then, you know, where I believe that we left off last time, and then we can discuss and have questions with everybody, so. So the committee was put together by the school board and the selectmen got together because we had two capital projects, or I may be using my terminology correctly, but we had two major projects that were voted down by the community. So we felt that we needed to work together as and listen to the community, because if both things were voted down, there was lots of questions amongst the community, like what does the community really need? So we looked at each other, we met, and we said, all right, we need a committee to come up with what are the community needs? Like, what does the community feel that it needs, if anything? It could be nothing. I mean, so we're not looking to build a building, we're not looking to do a campaign, or we're not looking to do the future plan of the community. We're really just trying to call the community as a whole, and I mean the whole community, every taxpayer, to say, what do you need, or what do you think you need or want in this community? And that's it. So we're not looking for them to build a building, we're not looking for them to say they need a fire station with 4 bays or an ambulance or anything like that. Like that can come later by another committee, the planning board or whatever. We're looking to really, because we have a short time period, we only have a few months, to say, and we only have we don't have a lot of money, you know, in theory, we don't have a lot of money, you know. So that's what we're really looking to do in the committee's eyes, and why we got together to form a committee. So we're not looking to say we have this building and it can do that. We're really looking to say, what does the community want, and what does the community feel that we need? And we don't want to lead them either. We don't want to say, do you need a fire station, and do you need a new school, and do you need like Meals on Wheels? Just put it out there. We have so many intelligent people that have traveled the world, that live in other communities as well, that come back to us and come up with some other ideas as to what we might need in the future, or now, that we haven't even thought of as a community. So, and then also to the point where we're like North Country Council, having them come in and say, what are other communities looking at in the future? And kind of pairing all that information together to bring it back to the selectmen and the school board, but more the selectmen to say, this is what your town's looking for. No money, no building, nothing like that, just simple, what are the community needs? So that's where I feel that we left off with what we were doing, based on the time frame we have, the money we have, and what the community is looking for, and what we asked the selectmen to give us the money for, and the town to support us for.
And this committee was authorized to work through town meeting, and then afterwards it's disbanded.
Correct.
It was funded by.
Funded by the
A
town, by a vote for a warrant article to $25,000 was given for us, to Barbara and myself to co-chair the committee to find out what the community wants, if anything. So that's where, that was mine. So yes, Dick, please.
Okay, if we were to have the goal of having a document by February, I think we should work back from that and say, okay, what can we do? Well, we're going to be in August, next meeting.
I know.
February is going to jump
6
right
months
out.
away.
It's, 6 months. So we should be realistic about what we can accomplish between
Yep.
now and February. And I think you've stated much of what we want in that document. And I think if we clarify those things now, then all our work going ahead will be towards that. And I think it'll give us that focus that we need. I think we need to focus in pretty quick.
Right, I do too. Jen, to your point, we'll have everybody, she took a lot of time and wrote a kind of a similar outline that you're discussing. So she backdoored in what the needs are based on her thoughts from taking minutes last minute, being involved, and just being a person. So we have that document we can review as well. But anybody else have anything they want to clarify or?
As I read the minutes, I thought of all the comments that maybe clarified what our mission is the best was Bill Terry's, what he said in what is written in the minutes. I mean, that was as close as I thought we came to determining what the goal of.
What did he say? Just remind me.
Is more to review the facilities that the town has, determine current use, and help prioritize funding. And then the final, what is the end product? I know those.
So I think we should do that on the side, but I think that would be more of the facilities committee, going back and saying what we have and what we need, but we don't know what the community wants.
Well, that's the survey.
Right, so that's the mission of the group, is to find out what the community needs. And then my thought would be to pair that if they wanted to, which would be back to the selectmen and the other committees to say, now you have the information, now you can look at what we have and then decide how you want to use those things. I wouldn't say that that's this committee's goal.
Yeah, if I could bring it back, we did have an Article 09 Facilities Committee to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 for the purpose of forming a Facilities Committee, that's us, to explore the needs of all town buildings and facilities. That's very, very specific. It doesn't say that we're supposed to be going out and doing the Chamber of Commerce process, or we're supposed to be going out and doing the community support activity. It's very specific to town buildings and facilities.
But how do we know what we want to use them for?
Excuse me, we have how many buildings and facilities? We only have 5 or 6, of which I'm aware. And I'm looking at this and I'm trying to understand. I hear what you're saying. You're saying, let's make it this large. But our charge was not to make it this large. Our charge was to be more specific around how does the community involve itself with the town provided facilities that we have. And the purpose of that is to ensure that we have appropriate facilities in town to meet our needs. I agree with the survey, I agree with that you do outreaches to make sure that you're properly focused, but I still haven't, this is my own problem, and I admit it's my problem, that I don't understand how we are really broadening this thing so far out to find out something that's more specific, which is our exact charge that was given and for which people voted.
Well, and was based largely on the fact that we did have competing requests for funding
For facilities.
for facilities, namely the new fire station and the elementary school. And how do you reconcile some of those conflicting needs? What's really necessary? What can we leave as is or work on over time versus building a new building? And are there any other buildings that have been overlooked? I don't think there was ever an expectation that we would be facing two possible major capital requests in 1 year. And the other question is, what else is out there? Is there some other lingering project that needs attention, that may be higher priority, and how does it all fit together?
So in my,
So I think Susan was going to say something.
Okay.
I
Sorry.
think one thing I remember from the last meeting is we were going to do a little bit of kind of education of our public to let them know what the town facilities and lands are,
Mhm.
and without leading them to build a school or build a firehouse or burn it down. But educate people to what we have, and then along that parallel track, asking them what they feel the needs of the town are, so that they knew what was here already and their current uses, and then asking what they feel that, and somehow we were going to do that without leading them too much about those.
Right.
And I don't know how to do that, that's what the survey guy was gonna do.
Right.
But that's what I understood, kind of, and that sort of marries the sort of big idea of what do the people want and what the facilities we have are. I guess it was kind of marrying the two.
Right.
So it is, have the facilities, educate the people so they know what facilities, and then find out which ones do they use now, and now that they know about it, which would they use in the future. There's plenty of meetings, hearings, listening posts and so on, which are very, very sparsely attended, even though people have been told about it in e-news or other ways. We just, what interest is there?
Well, I think the community is pretty interesting because they voted down both things. But
Well,
yes.
but now why did they vote it down?
Because there's so many different reasons, for
Right,
each
and it
individual.
wasn't because they didn't want it, it's because they felt, at least that's my take on it, is that they just felt that, as far as the school was concerned, that it hadn't been completely thought out as to exactly what the money was going to be used for. And with the fire station, people were saying, wow, that's an awful lot of money. Do we really need to spend that much to meet our needs? So I think it's a case of defining what the needs are, and that's the sort of thing capital improvements plan does, is to find out what the fire station people say they need, and what does the school says it needs, and then working out the best way to meet those needs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Jen, I'm gonna forward my email that I sent to you to the whole group. That way
Yep.
people can,
I can
Unless
send it
you're-
after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
because I really tried to, after looking through the minutes and thinking about everyone was sharing, is that there seemed to be these two ideas that seem to be in opposition that I don't really think are, which is the pie in the sky, what does everybody want, and let's get to the nuts and bolts of what's actually here. And so I broke it down in the email, and it basically is like a 3-prong process. So it's education, listening, and then, I just had it pulled up, sorry. Yeah, education, listening, and then your final product, which is after you've educated people about, we've all gone, I've not set foot in a lot of the facilities that are on the list. And I personally feel like it would be a good opportunity for us to, those of us who need it, to go to visit, invite other people if necessary, like say, come and see this, or take photos and do a write-up of the facility and its current condition so that people really understand what it is. Because folks can't get out at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday to go walk around the garage, but we need to make sure everybody has an opportunity to see what it's like, right? Because nobody can think about what it could be. We don't know what it is. We don't know what the possibilities are. We don't know what shape it is, if it just needs a new roof to stay put, right? So that we kind of need to know what's going on from like the nuts and bolts of it. And then sharing that information with people so that later when we go to them with the questions in the survey, they have something to reply with. So, and then so once we've done this, here's what we've got. And then the listening sessions would happen in, October, November, when North Country Council is available to talk to us and provide their insight about community development, and whether they're coming and talking about, like, when you're thinking about the future of your facilities, maybe they might say something like, school enrollment can change, yes, right? So maybe the school is saying, and I don't know because I haven't read all of the notes, but maybe the school is saying, we need an elevator so we can use the second floor. And then people might say, well, but what if we have declining enrollment? And then somebody else says, well, what if we want to use it as a senior center later on in the world? So the elevator, that's an expensive thing, is justified because the building has multiple uses in mind. Do you know what I mean? So people are more likely to maybe say, yeah, let's do that. So anyway, so that's the whole idea of educating people before we ask them. I'm not leading people to say that we need a senior center or we shouldn't do something to the school. I'm just using that as an example. And then being able to take the education that we've given people, be able to take the listening sessions with the North Country Council, take the survey results, and then we hand that product to the town and say, we've reviewed your facilities and this is what it looks like, right? And then here's what people are saying that they want. And then those are the two things that, because what they want will inform master plans, whatnot, and then the priority, the facility listing information will inform our community about what we have, and then also help the folks who are doing the financial planning and processing have a better understanding of what the true conditions are. I don't know. That's sort of how, in my mind, I took these ideas of, here's what we want as a community, but we have to know what we have, and then ask people after maybe a listening session what they want. So that's sort of how I reconciled it in my mind. So.
Jen,
Thank you, Jen.
I think what you're saying is pretty much exactly what Dick was asking. What is our objective going to be for a February delivery? And you've outlined something that suggests what that might be and a process that we might go around to do that. And I guess that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what is it, because we can charge ahead, but if we don't know where we're going, we're going to just waste time.
Sure.
And so understanding what our deliverable is and how we get there and what our steps are going to be are I think, critical to us being successful in what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
You've outlined some, here's a 3-step process. And it may not be the perfect process, but it's the kind of thing we need to do in order to move forward and all agree that's the thing we want to do.
Right.
And that will work. Will that meet our requirement for what we want to accomplish? That's a good start.
Thank you.
One of the reasons that I joined this committee was because I'm involved with the old library. And I am in awe of the number of people that have never even been in the old library. And I think it's just the most adorable facility that we could be used so much by the town. It's a beautiful facility, and it has a bathroom, and we could probably even set up Wi-Fi, I don't know, but the amazing, and that's why I joined, because I want to know more about each facility and what we could look forward to those facilities providing for us. And I think that the education part is the most important, Thank you for that, because that is, that's the starting point.
Yeah.
Because there are people in this town that have no idea what is in this town. And because they don't go to school board meetings and they don't go to selectmen meetings where different plans are coming up, and they don't read the e-news and they don't do anything. And they're the big voice when it comes to voting. They have no idea what was going on that probably led up to this particular vote. So I think that would be my start, just education.
Thank you.
I think communication with the town is going to be the hardest thing. Like, no, a lot of people don't read the e-news. A lot of people don't go to the town meeting.
Well, until it's time to vote.
Even then, they don't know what they're voting for. So they don't, participate in any of the selectmen meetings, and they read in the e-news what's going to happen. If it was something pertaining to them that they were interested in, they could go to the meeting.
This is where I believe I'd like to rely on some of Janice's experience, because she reaches out to the community at large. So this would be part of like saying, what are your ideas? What are your experiences? What works for you?
Because you had mentioned the mailing.
I'm thinking everything.
Yeah, and then just how many people are there, like residents, second homeowners,
900.
the taxpayers.
Right.
How many of that group of 900 can we get involved?
Right.
So I think that would be very important.
And before we get to the voting process,
Yeah,
so that they know what's going on. So that's, yes.
Just an example too, though, all the people that got their tax bills had information for them as taxpayers of Jackson, where to get a sticker to park at the falls. And there are people that are there that police come up and say something to them and they say, well, wasn't it? It was.
Right.
So they look at what their tax bill is, they write out their check and they send it out. They don't read anything, obviously.
I know.
So I don't know how to communicate to people with that.
Well, I don't know if that's what we need to figure out today, but it's definitely a grievance that we will have, a hurdle we'll have to go on. So we're gonna figure out, I think we're a little closer to what our goal is with this group, and I think that's what we had started this little sidebar conversation, this 180 on. So we need to make sure we figure this out, because I would like to review the survey draft that was sent out and the property that we have, and kind of make a plan so that we have action items in the motion for the next meeting. So I don't want to, so we're already, I think, 45 minutes into this meeting. So let's make sure we're all on the same page with what our goal is. Yep.
Sooner rather than later, I'm thinking that we can put out, like, to the e-news or something, again, what are the town properties? We could say, and again, like what Jen was saying, because I have not visited them all, and it's good to be reminded about the library and the old library and stuff like that. But even can't we just send just the list out? I don't know. I mean, e-news or something to get people thinking about this, because they come to the town, or I did too, come to the town meeting, and then all of a sudden it's like, I didn't know we were voting on this.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, if I had been reading the school minutes that have been sent out, I may have, and I thought I did, because sometimes I don't know, or whatever.
So I'm not taking it personally. It was a couple of years.
Yeah, no,
not just 1 year. It's okay.
So, but if we can like share this, I mean, at least maybe once a month or something like that, just people, they say you have to see it, 3 to 4 times, and then it's going to register, and it's like the first time they ever saw it, even though they've seen it 3 to 4 times.
You have to touch people 7 times in different ways before they actually take action. So I agree with that, but right now are we all, Bill, why don't you go with what we think our goal is for this group? Because I want to all agree on that so that we can move forward with the plan.
All right. I think Jen did a good job, to be honest. I think
Can we
that
summarize that in a sentence or two?
it would seem to me that our end goal or end deliverable ought to be advising the community what the expectations are for, based on our perceptions as a committee, but also from the input we've received from the community, what our current facilities are, what facilities we may need going forward, and what are our priorities in meeting the requirements of the community. I think those are the basic deliverables that we have. And I guess the other question I would have, and hopefully you'd be able to answer, is how can we set the priority for obtaining the facilities that the community wants, and putting a time window on it, or perhaps not necessarily price tags, because we won't know price tags. But saying this is what the community perceives as its needs. These are how well we're meeting them currently, and these are the shortfalls. These are the things that we need to do.
And I think that's an excellent and enough for this year. And if they want to renew, if we get to the end and our suggestion and recommendation to the selectmen and the community is we would like to continue this next year based on these results, here's what we will do next year if you want us to, or we pass it off to the planning board or whoever.
Or
Right.
to the Board of Selectmen, or to the
Right.
the education folks.
But I think that's well done, right? I think
Because
that covers
what
everything.
you need for what you do
Right.
is you need to have a reason for putting together something that somebody will say, yeah, we need that. Instead of saying, we think we need that, and you're going, geez. Or like the select board, I did go to all the meetings and all the good things, and I was involved, and I did go visit the fire department and all the other good things, and I am quite involved in what's going on. And yet, the select board did not have their fire chief recommending that we actually build a new firehouse. I mean, how do you do that? And
Thank you for coming, Barbie.
so it makes it very difficult to push something unless everyone's on board.
Well, that's part of what this is about as well, is getting community as best we can. Involvement early about what they want and what we have.
And-
So that when we get to the budget cycle,
Yeah.
what we're recommending is something that hopefully a majority of the community
Has
supports.
asked for us to push.
Correct.
That would make sense.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what we got together for, to say, well, what does the community feel they need, is really what it is.
That's what I think this.
And if we already have it, because and nobody knows about it, all the better, we don't have to spend any money. So anyway, so I feel, are we all in a good space then with that? Dick, yes?
I wrote down just a really brief
Good,
what
thank you.
Bill
Yeah.
said, but this is what I got. What is the highest and best use of the facilities we have? What facilities do we not have that we need?
Perfect.
Is that it?
That's what I've been trying to say all along, so thank you.
Two sentences.
Is everybody in agreement on that? Can we vote that in as our loose mission statement or our objective at this point?
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor of,
Yeah.
Bill, good with that?
We're good?
Okay. Okay, thank you,
I'll-
thank you. All right, so that makes me feel good. Made progress. So with that in mind, we do have a list, and why don't we skip the survey right now in the essence of time, because I think if people want to leave, I'd like to have your list. So Dick, if you want to, I'm going to pass out what we have. Again, this was in the town report, I believe page 45.
Yep.
So this is not the first time some people are seeing this. It's
But aren't
pink.
we missing, we're missing, center or something?
I don't know if that's town-owned. That's owned by the Whitney Center and Friends of the Whitney Center. It's not a town. You have a list, right? You need a list?
I have one, thank you.
Okay, you have this list?
I do.
I'm sorry, what did you say was missing?
Well, I thought it was the Whitney Center, but maybe it was something else. It was something that wasn't on this
The Whitney
list.
Center is owned by the school district.
Yeah, so it's not a community building. It's used by the community, but it's not community owned.
Okay.
But that's something good though to maybe, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
To share that it is, who owns that or something, because that is something that we use as a
As a community center, right, but
And
it's
I'm
not
wondering-
owned by the town.
Right.
Yep.
Jen, is that because it's on school property?
That's because I believe that's the way it was set up, and that's where it is. So I don't, Dick has more history with there,
Again,
somebody else.
wasn't it the library there and not on that
Yeah,
property?
Dick, do you know the history on that?
So.
How it became Friends of the Whitney?
But from your perspective though, don't you care whether or not people address the school facilities or the
Oh,
school
yeah.
property?
Yeah, no, but she's asking is the town own the Whitney Center, and the
So
town
it
does
shouldn't be
not
listed
own.
here, but for our consideration, I guess, that's what I'm asking.
Right.
Usually we should put all those down at the bottom.
I agree. I think in that way, you can delineate it as a
Yeah.
separately owned, but
Right.
also a community resource.
Right, so right now, we're
Right,
just
yeah.
going over
Yeah.
Yeah,
what the town
Continuing
owns.
the education part.
right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, right, and but the town doesn't own it. So right now, we're just gonna go over, Dick was nice enough to review this beforehand and give us locations of things, so I'd like Dick to go over the list for us, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Well, let's see, some of them are pretty obvious, so
Yep.
do you want to go over what the questionable ones are?
I just go right down the list because we have
Okay.
people in the community that don't know
Well,
where things
we've
are.
got a question right at the start.
Yep,
Wildcat Townhouses, which was a tax lien, and then it went all the way, and we took it. But what we have are we own the development rights. It was never really clear that we own land, or it's like, in the development, they can do so many units for the area that is up there. We own the development rights. I have never had it clarified to me what we own. We don't own this lot, this land, we own the rights to develop that land. So if there was some way that we could move that along to the abutting owner, now I haven't checked on this recently, so that would be good homework for me
okay.
to have a better idea of what's going on up there, because it's gone on for years.
That would be wonderful. So some of this, when we go down this list, maybe that we find, and we have questions, which Dick and I talked a little bit before the meeting, that we push back to the town to say, clarify this. Because this is a document that we would like to share with the community, and we need community members, lay people, to understand what it says.
It's an asset of some kind, but we have no
Right.
idea.
Right, we're not getting money, taxes from them, right?
So I would love it if, Dick, if you could
I mean, we're not
clarify.
getting taxes.
that means.
I will try to
Okay.
have a better
All right,
spiel on what's going on up there, but it's complicated and it's gone on a long time. Okay, Prospect Farm is pretty straightforward. That is property that the town owns. And there's quite an initiative in the Conservation Commission right now as far as developing more recreation up there. They're talking about mountain bike trails or hiking trails or a running loop or, anyway, a number of ideas that come up. So that's in the works. Let's see, New Hampshire Route 16 is 1 acre north of Winneweta Falls on the east side of Route 16. What that 1 acre is, I don't know.
It's not buildable either.
Obviously, it isn't buildable because on Route 16, I would think somebody would have snagged it by now. But, question here. Iron Mountain Road, 0.25 acres. I believe it's parking area up beyond the gate on Iron Mountain Road. That the town, we actually own that property, and it's used for parking for the trailheads up there. Old Jackson Road, that was a corner off of Route 16 that goes up Old Jackson Road, and I can't remember who owned it. If it was the Perrys. And anyway, they didn't want it anymore. So we now have it. It seemed like a good idea to hold on to it so we could keep the sight lines. It's kind of a difficult intersection with Route 16. So to keep those sight lines clear, and so we held on to that and accepted that corner, 0.52 acres. Eagle Mountain Road, 0.21 acres between Eagle Mountain Road and Adams Road, which, you know, again, we could part with it. I don't know if it's of any value to any of the abutters, but, you know, maybe in time we can look at that.
It almost seems like that's like the size for a well, like a community well or something. It doesn't seem like a very large parcel, right?
I don't think
Wondering
it's
why.
really useful for
Lots
it.
of bits and pieces here that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
And then I had Main Street, 0.27. That one I was never clear of. I think it's the triangle by the school with the flagpole and the war memorials, which we're obviously going to hold on to that. Town office building, land, library, highway garage. Thorn Hill. Oh,
Is that the water or whatever that cement bunker is over there?
it's 2 acres behind the town garage. That I guess goes over to Thorn Hill Road.
2 acres at 3,000? The value's 3,000 for
Yeah.
2 acres?
I think I've been back in there, I think it's a little wet,
A wetland,
Yeah.
maybe? Okay.
I think. Oh, okay, Maloon Road. That is a very odd piece at the end of, it's not the old dump transfer station. It's just this little section of land at the end of Candy Cane Lane that I don't even know why the town owns it, but
But we do.
they do, and for $400, I would let it go to an abutter, but then there's the former transfer site up there, 3.5 acres. I think that in time that could be developed. And I don't know what recreation, but something, or a park.
Yeah.
You know, it's been used as a dumping place for fill for a long time. It'd be nice to smooth that out, get rid of the knotweed, and make it look, you know, maybe a picnic area or something along the river there. Anyway, I'm sorry, I get running on my own ideas, but I should stick to what it is. So the Dundee Cemetery, I don't think we're going to disturb that. The Shapley Building, I believe is the old library.
See, that's incorrect. We said that the last time, it isn't the Shapley, it's
Emerson.
Emerson.
So is it the same, is it the
That's
library?
That's just, it's the old library.
So it's the Emerson building?
Correct, not Shapley.
It's the building and not any land. Okay, then we have the ball field.
And the building, right?
Well, yeah, the dugout,
Bathroom.
bathroom. Yes, if we can get that all working again. But anyway, the ball field, Gray's Inn Land and Garage. That's 1 acre over here.
Is that the
That's that thing across the way.
next to?
Next to
Flossie's? Okay.
Jackson Falls.
Park? Or just the
We
falls?
certainly have had a long discussion on that.
Yeah.
Black Mountain Road parking lot is the parking just north of the town hall.
On the left side,
Yep.
going up, yep.
And the town hall land and building. The park.
Yeah, but town hall and the building, just for those who are not familiar, that's the historical
Society, right?
society building.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good to,
So that if you look at that, because you think of this as the town offices, this is not that's the old town hall. And it's leased out to the historical society. I think they have some 20-year lease or 50-year lease or 100-year lease.
Whatever, it's,
But it's town owned.
Right, okay, so these.
right.
the old town hall and land.
These are like the directions, like, oh, go to the, where Miss Susie used to bake her pies 50 years ago, make a left.
Turn left is where it's
Right? You know, the dead horse that's over, sorry. Okay, park, sorry, Dick.
And we have the Mill Street Cemetery.
What about
Excuse me,
the,
Dick, the
we didn't go
park.
over the park.
Oh, that park.
Which part is that part?
It
Gazebo
just
there.
says park?
Is that the one with the gazebo?
No.
I don't think it's that park.
Is it the one with the pond,
I think that's the ball
where
field.
we have the fireworks? Or is that the ball
I
field?
thought that was the ball field, but.
That's a ball field.
Yeah, which the town owns part of, right?
Yeah.
Do we have a
Snowflake
Snowflake
tax
owns a lot of it.
earns first base over to the bridge.
Right.
I mean, not the ski bridge, the road bridge.
It should be next to the old town hall land, because it's Village 2-40, which is adjacent to on the tax map, VO 2-39, which is the old town hall and land. So my guess.
So maybe
If we
it's where we
looked at
put
the
the
tax map,
Christmas
it's
tree?
probably where the Christmas tree goes.
There's separate lots along there. And
Yeah.
that's why the parking lot was considered different than
Got
Norfolk.
And for the
Okay.
price, it looks like that.
So that maybe the gazebo and where the skating rink used to be.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay. Christmas
Good
tree.
point, Jack.
Good job. Good job, Dick.
Gotta love the tax maps.
All right, so I'll look that in the tax map, we'll figure it out. Mill Street Cemetery, that's pretty straightforward. Jackson Highlands Road was denied last year, the sale, but it's just these two strips of land along the road between the house lot and the road that for whatever reason, the town ended up with it. But we certainly could move that along.
Well.
It was denied last year.
Because the residents, and I live up there, so I know that,
Right.
but because they want the green, they don't want just it clear cut.
Right.
So they want, so I don't think they.
But I mean, it's literally like this much along the side of the road.
Yeah, but.
But it also
well, the
maintains
residents-
sightlines, and I think it was originally set, if I understood it correctly, it was originally deeded to the town in order to ensure that it was not developed,
Right.
in order to enable that to not be a blind turn, blind curve.
If that is, would there be a record of that in like town?
It was at the deliberative meeting last year. They voted.
Oh, okay, but I meant like specifically like about the
Why?
sight lines, like of originally, but never mind.
We looked for the history of it, and we really couldn't find it.
But it's the only thing that really makes any sense when you think about why it would have come to the town
Sure.
when they were developing the road. And that is true of several situations for the town road. For example, the one we had to swap with the owner, and the other, we had to agree to swap with the owner because their property was in the middle of the road, and you know, it's just a matter of the town owns the road, and it was larger than the actual right of way.
Right. Well, and then the people that bought that property there that were developing, they wanted to cut into Jackson Highlands, but the others didn't want it because of it entering an exit. They really needed it to come from whatever the other street is, Maple.
Right.
Sugar.
Maple.
Yeah. So, and it is very nice. I think they're going to like it,
Yeah.
the owners, much better than coming out into that street. So,
Yeah.
but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah.
It's where the fire, highway, land and building and salt.
That's pretty straightforward. Profile Rock is up on Tyrol. I guess everybody,
Is that what
Oh, Washington Boulevard?
Washington?
if you go up there, you can
Yeah.
see George Washington's profile.
Hey, do you-
I'd recognize that nose anywhere.
When I saw Profile Rockland, it reminded me that like Conservation Commission kind of takes care of some of these a little bit more than others, like, aren't they?
Well, Mark and I did a walkthrough on that
Yeah.
because the abutter above wanted to clear some of the
Right.
trees from the property, and there was concern that the cut was not going to be a good idea. And what we found out was that what was on there, it had been cut previously, and everything that was there except for 3 trees was scrub.
Right. I guess my question really is, as we are educating our public about this, should we let them know that, like, if you wanted to know anything about Profile Rock, talk to the Conservation Commission. If you want to talk about Jackson Falls, talk to the Conservation Commission. You want to talk to the cemetery, talk to
Mhm.
which little group in town, does the grounds and deals with the budgets for these little bits of property.
Right, or if you have inputs of how to better, when I said the
Yeah.
highest and best use of any of the properties, if you have ideas, yes, bring them forward.
Well, that's what we're doing.
And, if we understand what all these facilities are, then we can answer their questions better.
Right. And we should know, yes. Thank you.
I just want to volunteer for putting together a visual map of these properties.
Oh, that'd be
Having that
great.
for the next meeting.
Because the map,
People will be able to,
yeah.
a layperson will be able to say like, this is kind of where it is, and if they felt like it, they should go see what it was.
Because the tax map is helpful, but,
Not everybody knows how to read the text.
yeah, we just had to read ours and it was very vague.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's Ball Hill, correct?
yeah. Thank you. So I think that completes this list.
Can I ask a
So,
question?
yeah, you're on track.
So the cemeteries, you have a cemetery committee.
Which is
Yes.
supposed to be Emerson.
Yeah.
Okay. And these roads, like Old Jackson Road, Eagle Mountain Road, are these the town roads that are
Yes.
in the budget? So that's all that you own, have to deal with, is what's on here? Okay. Yes.
And these are, when the description of like the Eagle Mountain done is, that's where the lot is, it's not the road. It's
Okay.
just, it's next to the road,
Okay.
we're keeping it like make
For
sure that we can
space,
make
or-
a turnout,
Okay,
you know, or for whatever reason,
okay.
the town safety-wise, figured we should keep it as opposed to giving it to, or selling it to the landowner. So,
But one could surmise that these are the roads that the town manages. I understand that this is
Well,
land around those roads.
it's the land around the road,
Yeah,
it's
but-
not the road.
But the town, these are town roads.
Yes, Yeah.
Route
As a
16 is
description.
state though.
it's a state
Right,
road,
you
yeah.
don't have
No,
to
no,
say
no,
that.
no, well.
Yeah.
These are,
I know these are
So, yeah,
properties
these-
on
so-
those roads, but the roads themselves, some are town roads and some are
Yes,
state maintained
yeah.
roads.
but we don't, yeah.
We're just using it. as
None
a-
of these properties refer to a road, I guess.
Right.
Correct.
So when I
It's just a,
make the visual, I'll make sure that I'm gonna color code these small pieces of lots that belong to the town, that are on these roads. It won't be the road notation. So it'll just show these little pieces, and then,
and then to Ginger's point, if we have questions like the community center is not owned by the community, it's utilized by the community, so I don't know if there's other buildings that are in question like that. I mean, that's an excellent one, but I don't know what else in
The
town
other
would
one
be.
is the church, because from what I understand that a while ago, there was a daycare in the church.
Because the church allowed it.
Right, and that they were gonna try to do it again or something. But I don't know. That is something that I think, that could be useful too.
So, I mean, as long as we're doing the list, I would
If
say,
it's something that's being used by the community.
if it's something that's used by the community, the church is owned by the church.
Right.
And it allowed the school leased room there, so it never was part of the school.
The private
Right.
preschool leased,
Right.
leased
Leased
it.
I think probably the biggest one is the Whitney Center.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or the school building, I
Yeah.
think so, me too.
Yep.
And it would be worth, like, knowing that the church is,
Owned by the church.
like, owned by the church, but it is also an emergency site for
Right.
the community, as
Yeah.
well as the Whitney.
Yeah.
And I think that goes into, so this is just
But completely
land
separate character.
and buildings, yeah, so if we all want to send, in the essence of time today, if we all want to send, an email to myself, and I'll send it over to our new facilitator, we can figure out, like, what other questions we have about other buildings,
Okay.
and then we can add them to the list.
Yeah.
I don't think we
In
should
other
exclude
words,
anything, I'm
yeah,
just
we
saying,
should
make sure we
include-
get everything, yeah.
we should include buildings or areas that are used by the public as
Yeah.
opposed to private homes.
I mean, I'm sure the Snowflake would appreciate the community knowing that it's their land that most of the time we have a party on, or the fireworks, where is that land? Like there
Or
versus
the
there.
actual community center is the J-Town Deli.
I put that on there. We own no land. No, yes, Jen.
can I make a request? And maybe there
Yeah.
is already a folder, but like maybe Janice could create like a Google Drive where we can make sure we all have access to it,
Yeah.
so we can. If I go home and lose my town property thing, I know I can go to Google Drive and just print another copy. That would be, I think, really helpful for me at least.
Yeah, and I think we should have
Have
a
our
bunch of,
minutes.
all of our minutes there, and
Drafts.
any worthy feedback forms that we're gonna include or talk about as well. And then the link to the Netflix.
Yep.
Jackson Flicks as well. So, and then we can have a link to the town site where all that is, so that people can look at it, not necessarily make changes to it.
And we need Janice's email address too.
Yes. Get that done. All right, so thank you, Dick, I appreciate that. That was good homework. Thank you.
I'll try.
That's great.
So we have a few, next month, they expect to come back with other feedback on that, on the few that we have. Broker a deal with Wildcat up there. Okay, so the next thing, I don't know if we have time to stay for this one, but we do have, David Campbell did the survey based on the information that we gave him the last time, and we did pass that out to everybody beforehand. I do have copies if anybody would like one as well. And I know somebody also, Emily did provide some feedback as well.
Jim, I'm gonna have to go, but I was
Yeah.
thinking, if you want to meet at the Whitney Center next time, why don't you call me?
Okay.
Tell me what time, and date,
Yep, because we're still on
Decide
school. Yep,
and I can reserve it.
okay, thank you.
Reservations for the wedding go through the school.
Nice.
Yep.
So I'll do that. So just give me a
Great,
shout.
thank you. So, do we want to review the survey that we have so far today? Because we're not necessarily going to pass this out, and hand it out to the community at large. Or, I think we've made great progress today, I really do. I don't want us to burn out, but I think we have some homework to do as far as getting the cleaning up what we own, the paperwork that Dick did, meeting up with North Country Council, finding out where they are in their timeline, and coming to do like a listening post with the community in the early fall would be our recommendation on that. What else did we have on our little to-do list here? There was a sidebar thing going on about all the people and all the committees that they're involved in. But that doesn't have anything to do with
I think it
this.
needs to be tabled, that part.
Well, it's going on the side.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with this committee at this point. But it was something that came out of this committee. What do you think, Joyce?
Well, I just have a couple of questions.
Yes, please.
One is, how is this survey being distributed? Is it going to be mailed to
I
people?
think it's going to be many forms, as many forms as possible so people can answer it.
So it'll go on e-news, blah, 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 just as, okay.
I'll stand at the post office and hand it out. Yes.
And is there only, sorry, just the
No,
other.
go ahead, yeah.
Will there be a follow-up survey, or is this going to be the only survey we use?
I would think that there's probably going to be a follow-up survey. I mean, we're casting that pretty wide for information. And depending on what we find from there, we may decide as a committee that we want to ask more detailed information. But I don't know that until we get some answers, I'm not saying no or yes. So.
Yeah, well, if there's a follow-up, that may be fine. If this were the only one, I know we put it together, but when you see it, you have a chance to look at it and read it, I think this does not address the purpose of this committee. And I feel that it's not going to give back the answers that we're looking for. So that's my
Yeah, I think it's heavy on demographics as opposed to being heavier on just asking some basic
I know you want to
questions.
lead people, but on the other hand,
We don't want to lead people.
no, I understand that, of course you don't.
But you want to give
You
them
wouldn't ask a
some.
point back question, but these are just way too loose and vague.
Okay, that's great.
Joyce, I had the same feeling, and that's why I was hoping we would determine what the heck it was, our deliverable was, so then we can ask the kind of questions that, push us in the direction that we're looking to go. And my sense was, this is, if I read this and if I got this back, how does it help us?
Yeah, it's too heavy on
It tells
demographics.
us, okay.
Without being heavy
A lot
on
of this information is stuff we already know or is available to us already. It might tell you who thinks about certain things based on the demographic, but it doesn't really give you anything about
What do they want?
what do they want,
No.
Right.
or what's a priority, or would you
What
be
do you want to
willing?
spend your money
Would you
on?
be willing?
I mean, but we don't want to
unless-
say, do you want a fire station? Do you want
Right.
school? Like,
Agreed.
because it could be something we haven't thought of, is
No.
my point, like,
But if you needed something, are you willing to accept a higher tax bill to meet your requirement? I mean, it's a serious question.
Right.
But we're talking about serious business here, and you can't just dodge it. There's a process that we need to go through and say, okay, if we're not going to spend any more money on anything, that's easy. We just all go home. We don't have to do anything. We can just let things run as they are, and it's like having an old car. You just run it into the ground. Then eventually you're going to have to address it, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid that kind of process. So the question is, when do you invest, and what do you invest in, and how do you invest, and what's important to you, what do you need to do? And that we agreed that was what we what was important to us. So how do we ask those questions?
Right.
And I think we need to do a better
So
job
maybe-
of what's out there.
So maybe a good idea is to have David come to the next meeting. And I say him because he's a professional
Yeah.
survey, or, you know. So maybe if he came to the next meeting and we started asking those questions, he could help get us to the end point. So my point is I don't, you know, facilitator, exactly. But I don't want us to have to figure out something that we have a professional at our fingertips to do. So I don't know.
I actually don't think that the survey person is the person that's going to get us to the questions that we need
Okay.
to ask. I think that the questions that we need to ask are gonna come from somebody who, like, is more of a professional in, like, towns and
That's
community
true, right.
development, right? Because they might say, you know, here are 10 questions that we've seen successful responses from other people who are pursuing the same thing, whereas a survey person might look at this and go,
Yeah.
you know, this is not the way you want to word that question, it's going to limit your
That's true.
response.
Tactical.
So yeah, just much more like tactical questions, like, and I think that we are looking for somebody who has more
Janice.
community
Yes.
development.
Oh,
Yeah.
what, do you have a comment?
Do you have a
I'm sure you
comment?
do. I know you've been listening. Please.
Well, I'd like to see what the tool is, and then I would agree with what you're saying. If it's all demographics, then you're not asking the people. What you're doing is you're gathering information that will make some group knowledgeable about what they might want. Because you don't really need, I mean, you can go and look at your tax records and your
Right.
birth records and all that to determine. So I'd like to see it, and then when Jen was commenting, I was thinking if we called up some other towns that are similar in size as yours, then, and ask them, what kinds of surveys have you put out to try? And look at those questions, and then I'm happy to try to come up with some questions myself. You don't want it to be very long, or they're not going to do it. Do you know what this gentleman's format or software is
Yeah,
that he's going to use?
He can use anything.
So he was going to use constant contact
He can
survey
use
or
anything, yeah.
something like that, okay.
I mean, that's tactical.
Right,
What we're trying to get to, and I believe, Jen, you brought me back to point, is what do we want to ask?
right.
Right, is what we're looking for. And maybe if, you know, our homework assignment, mine, and I'll tag Miss Emily, because she seems to be one with North Country Council. Like at this point now, let's figure out, like, is this the point we bring them in?
Yeah, North Country Council may have some good.
Yeah.
I think too, I'm sorry.
You can contact North Country Council and have a conversation and see, just general, do they know of any towns that have done this type of thing?
Right.
And then we would then, if there has been any, then we would then be able to contact the towns ourselves.
Right.
We wouldn't have to go through Northern Country Council to do the contact, and we just find out if anybody else has done it.
Would you like me to do that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And I think Tish was gonna reach out to Bridgeton.
She was.
Okay.
So we just
She
haven't
couldn't
been able to
make today.
report back from her
All
yet.
right, and we'll remind Tish to reach out to Bridgeton.
It seems to me too
Tish
that
to
a
reach out to
lot of the
Bridgeton.
questions
Not
need to
far.
relate back to the actual facilities that have been identified.
I don't know if they
And
need to relate back to the facilities at this point.
Well,
For purposes of the survey.
give an example.
Well, as an example, you want to know who uses which facilities. Do you,
To use
for
library.
example,
That's a for
use the
example.
library? All right, let's use the library. 'Cause
Since
that's-
she's library person.
Yeah, I'm the library chair for the Board of Trustees. Do you use the library? Are there any deficiencies in the library in terms of its size? Do you think we should, I don't want, not leading people, I'm just an example. Should we be thinking about expanding the children's room? Should we be focused more on adult activities?
I
What
think
things aren't
Your
working?
first question would be not leading people. Do you see any deficiencies? There are things at the library which you would like to see.
Yeah, Yeah, you can
And
ask it in a
that
way that's
type of
not.
Yeah,
question
I'm just saying, but that type of
about
question.
different facilities.
Mhm.
That's what we'd
But
like to know is
Right,
whether or
right, well,
not
and
it's
we
this
al-
or that,
We
yeah.
already know that there are deficiencies at the fire station, and
And I guess what
shouldn't
I'm
there be a
looking,
question shaped around the
Yeah.
fire station? What do you perceive as
and
the
I think
major
we
issues?
talked about that last time when we said that was leading, and something that might be good for the second survey, depending on what people answered, but I don't know, because if you're somebody, are we leaving enough room, because to your point, like, we want to make it short, right? We only have so many. But, I mean, and it could be inclusive, but are we leaving ourselves open to saying, you know, we might need an elder care facility, which we don't even have, so we have no way of asking somebody if they want to use that, because we don't, you know, like, or do we need Meals on Wheels, or do we need low-income house, like I guess that's the questions I'm looking for, is not just targeting a building or two that we have and that we're using, but what is the community at large might want?
Yeah.
You know, not what are we using
Well, how
now
does-
efficiently.
But how does that answer the question of which of the competing interests should have priority? The additions to the school?
It doesn't, I mean,
Or-
well, it could say, we don't need an addition to the school, we actually need an elder care facility. That trumps everything. And then,
But how do you
So-
frame that in terms of
I don't
the
know.
survey? Well,
I
that's.
think
know.
maybe the question
I
is
don't
a
know.
survey the right tool for that job? Because a survey is easy to employ, but maybe we're putting the cart in front of the horse and we're just not ready to finalize the survey. at this
yeah, I'm
point.
thinking we table this,
I agree.
yeah, because we need somebody else to help us.
But I think if we take a look at starting the process to review the facilities, educate people about the facilities, then at least people will have an opportunity to have more information, increased awareness, so that then when we come with whatever format we ask the questions, then people will have more ability to respond with the background or a background.
I think between now and the next meeting, we look to some more experts as to how do they work with their community and figure out the same, we're not the only community that's probably doing this.
I think one of the things that you wanted to add to Mr. Bennett's mission statement is the education aspect. That word has come up over and over and over and over again. And what we have is what is the highest and best use of facilities we have, and what facilities do we not have that we need. But there needs to be an education component in there. So I'll play around with that as the mission and try to add that in there. I'll get in touch with North Country Council. I think what's going to happen is once, you were asking, well, how will these decisions be made? I think once you get the information from people, then you would be sharing that with the selectmen, who may say, let's share that with the fire department, let's share that with the library, because they each have their own governing body that should be aware of these things and then come up with what their needs are that they bring to the budget committee. Do you all have a budget committee like the town of Conway does, or you do a process that helps to lead you down the road of what kind of warrant articles you're going to have and what have you? So I think that when you start getting some of these answers to the surveys, you may realize you've got a second survey you need to send out, or you need to do a survey just around the fire department, as you get more and more information from people.
Right, so we're just trying to cast our net wide.
Yeah.
So I think we're good at this point. I really appreciate, everybody's input and patience and with me. I'm just trying to move the cart along, that's all. So, so thank you all very much. And we have our action items for next meeting. We have Janice on board.
Next meeting?
So yeah, when's the next meeting? We usually have it on a Thursday at 4. So that puts us for next, we did.
Could we have it before the 17th? Which means you'll be meeting in 2 weeks or 3 weeks rather than.
That would be the 11th.
I can't do.
How about the first week in September?
That pushes it too far for me, I think. I can do the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, we could do it, I can't do it the 15th.
Tuesday the 16th?
I can do Tuesday the 16th. at 4. Anybody else can do Tuesday the 16th at 4?
I think that week's out for me.
We're
Okay.
gone.
You're gone? I can't have it then.
So the week before,
The 9th,
8th, 9th, Monday, Tuesday.
you're
I
gone?
won't be back for a while. I got a
Okay.
grandbaby coming. so-
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Each month I'm gonna be a grandma.
Can you do the 9th?
We went on vacation for
10th, 11th.
through the 18th.
They're on the 4th to the 18th, they're on vacation.
Okay.
When do you get back, Janice?
I get back on the 28th. We could do it the 30th.
We could do it the 30th, August 30th. It's a
What day
Tuesday.
is that?
It's a Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday.
Does that work? That's about a month. You guys will be back, right? Okay.
It works.
Sure.
What time?
4 PM works for most.
And do you want me to call Susan and have that be at the Whitney Center?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll change it up. We'll go to the Whitney Center.
We could also do the old library.
We could do that in September. Will that work?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, great. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it went out an email as well
I
to
know.
everybody.
Yeah, I just went on a printer. Okay.